Wakey, wakey, another day, another time. We meet here on Morning Prime. It's a beautiful Thursday, the 11th of July, 2024. Numbingly cold here in Nairobi at 13 degrees centigrade. I don't know how your weather is up there, whatever you're waking up from, but that's how it is here in Nairobi. So we keep ourselves laid up and warm. Today is Thursday. You have Sokoni coming your way, where we take an analysis of what is happening on the current state of play as far as the economy is concerned. What does it portend now that we have the Moody rating that has downgraded Kenya and taken us to, of course, that particular junkyard, as they always say. And this is regarding the protest. I know Professor Geturo Wanaina does not sometimes agree with what Moody rating says. Says we should be having our own African ratings as well, instead of just depending on the Moody ratings as well. We shall be talking about this and a raft of other issues as far as the economy is concerned. Now that the government is acting, paring down on also the advisors to the cabinet and the executive. They'll be cutting that down by 50%. But also the corruption continues to thrive in the counties. We have also issues to do with KRA and accountability of the revenues as well, as far as the Auditor General is concerned. A lot of issues that we'll be discussing this morning, looking the way forward as well, and the task force on public debt will critically also we will be analyzing that after we had the court halting that temporarily after the Society of Kenya went to the courts. All right, so we have at least the lay of the land. You get an inkling of what we'll be discussing, and of course what will be in the dailies as well. But let's see how the weather will be today. Radio Note here, come with the dailies. I don't have the extra read all about it, but I have the standard read all about it. Misadvised, a probing question there. Blame it on Ruto. This is what AG says. Wasn't me. In a bold statement, Attorney General Justin Muturi has come out to say the president does not consult him on a number of key decisions, in spite of being the chief legal advisor on various legal issues, and that is why government has been a battle jocks in corridors of justice. You have a story on page 4 of today's Standard. A tough call here. And military deployment. The Attorney General says the move to deploy military to the streets was done without his input. He says no one sought a legal opinion. Secondly, talk about police brutality. He says there is no law that allows police to harm peaceful protesters, that he will never give such advice. On public debt audit, according to Muturi, the debt probe can only be done by the Auditor General. He says his opinion was not sought prior to announcement. The deployment of the military to the streets was done without the advice of Attorney General. I also can't advise the police to go and shoot innocent kids in the streets. That is what Justin Muturi, the Attorney General, says. No one consult him regarding key, of course, decisions that have been made by the government. And we can see there is a spate of backlash in the courts are halting of some of the decisions the government has taken. Raila backtracks again in a series of missteps. Opposition leader yesterday said he was not for a handshake after backlash from Gen Z over dialogue suggestions. You have a story on page 8 of the Standard today. Government commits to paying 165 billion shilling spending bills. That is on page 11. And queries raised of misusing billions at KRA. That is on page 19 of the Standard today. Also, CBK's test for fine whiskey flies in the face of austerity talks. All right, the Central Bank of Kenya has issued a tender for the supply and delivery of assorted premium wines and spirit for the Kenya School of Monetary Studies. This is in spite of the president's order to cut spending on luxury items and embrace austerity measures across departments. And this is on page 6 of the Standard today. Professor Gituro Wanaina will tell us the King George now. If he wants to get some King George, he can go to the Kenya School of Monetary Studies. Yes. King George there, right? A country mourns. Kiuna touched many lives. And of course, we stand in solidarity with the JCC as they're mourning the passing on of the bishop. This is Alan Kuna as well. Our condolences and deepest sympathy. Remember, get all the wiser as far as the real estate is concerned. State Farm fights to grow mortgage uptake. That is what is on the front page of the Standard today as well. Daily Nation, where are they? That is their burning question. Where are they? Abductions, families searching for their loved ones are demanding that the state produce them. Missing. The last time, Mukhtar Tache Ali, Nura Abdi Diba, Issa Osman were seen was on July the 6th as they left a restaurant in Isiolo town. They were seized by police officers and bundled into waiting vehicles. The trio is among at least 18 people who have gone missing across the country and are suspected to be in the custody of security agencies over the youth protest. Are they still alive? When will they be released? And this story is on page 6 and 7. And of course, we know the story of Denzel Omondi. His body was found in a dam in Juja, in a quarry there. Very telling pictures that were going or are doing rounds in social media. Really heart-wrenching story there of how he was abducted and killed by goons, or that is yet to be known, I should say, whoever killed him. Raila's handshake dilemma as Kalonzo walks away. Raila Odinga, while Mr. Odinga's ODM is backing calls, I should say, for national dialogue announced by President William Ruto, the opposition chief says he has received reports from some of his party leaders that a majority of Kenyans are against a handshake with the president. And this story is on page 4. Kalonzo Musyoka, Wiper Democratic Movement party leader, says he is not interested in joining hands with the Kenya Kwanza government as he does not want anything to do with the president. That is President William Ruto's administration. That story is on page 5 of the publication today. also revealed counties with the most illegal bank accounts. Bungoma leads with a pack with 352 bank accounts, followed by Baringo 304, Migori 208, and Nyandarua with 86. This flies in the face of what they're supposed to do as far as public finance is concerned, banking with the central bank. Despite the fact that this has been raised by the Auditor General, no stern action is being taken. And this story has been doing rounds for a while right now. Alarmers, 316 Kenyans die in Gulf states in 2 years. This story on page 2 of the publication today. Also the sidebar, Biden back to vote hands despite calls to quit the contest, and will post interns in batches. This is what Health CS Namukicha she's saying. And you can also follow the story on page 8 of the publication today. Backlash forces Raila out of state dialogue. This is what is on the front page of the Star today. Hard. Fallout from Raila's own coalition has seemingly forced him to reconsider. Kalonzo says he won't engage in any process that appears to sanitize Ruto. And this story is on page 6 of the Star today. And you can see raising accusatory fingers maybe as far as this telling picture is concerned. It's Azimio leaders Martha Karua, Eugene Wamalwa, Kalonzo Musyoka, Jeremiah Kioni, and Raila Odinga. And this is the current state of play as far as also the implosion that is maybe impeding or looming as far as Azimio is concerned. Rain to let up this weekend, but cold to persist, says Matt. The ongoing rains are expected to taper off towards the weekend. However, the cold weather will continue, only becoming gloomier, as the skies are expected to remain grey and overcast. Intermittent cool and cloudy conditions are expected over some parts of the highlands, east and west of the Rift Valley, the southern east lowlands and Rift Valley. This is what Joseph Thiongo, a deputy director at the Meteorological Department, is saying. And motorbike thug attacks 10 women, kids as well in Naivasha. Malim casualty as Kalonzo cracks sweep on rebels MPs. That is on page 7 of the Star today. Raila eats humble pie. That is what the People Daily is cutting as the splash today. Revolution. Opposition leader retreats on his calls for dialogue with brave youths after public backlash. Azimio partner Kalonzo warns that Kenyans want action and no talks to sanitize the falling regime. That is on page 4. Farah now in trouble over shoot protesters' comments. That is a story that you want to follow. Also on page 3 of the People Daily. Ways to keep high blood pressure in check. You can get all the wines as far as your health check is concerned. And Ruto says foreigners plotting to grab power using protest. Foreigners plotting to grab power using protest. We'll run about that story also as well. Raila aogopa salamu za Gen Z. That is what Taifa is saying today. Siku moja baada ya kukutana na rais, Odinga sasa asema hatashiriki mdahalo wa kitaifa. That is the story that you want to follow on page 2 of the publication this morning. And sitaki kuingia serikalini, asema Kalonzo. There, get all the juicy story on page 3 of Taifa Leo. Let's buckle down to some business where we're given an understanding of how the diesel cargo sparked fresh Kenya-Uganda fallout. KRA demanded bond fee of undeclared 170,000 cc, and the State House intervened to have consignment, I should say, offloaded. That is the story that you want to follow inside the Business Daily this morning. Of course, Matters Oil engineer Patrick Kubath, of course, will shed light on what is really happening with this fallout and the spiking of the fees for the import of oil as well. That now is ruffling feathers of our dear brothers in Uganda. Kenya's domestic debt jumps by 577 billion shillings in a year. Public debt in the local market grew 5.8% during the fiscal year that ended last month, with new borrowings hitting 577 billion shillings. Tanzania's Amson's makes 23 billion shillings Bamburi buyout offer. Tanzania-based conglomerate with diverse interest in energy, construction, food and transport has made 65 shillings per share bid to fully acquire Bamburi Cement for a total of 23.5 billion shillings. Safaricom cuts CEO Ndegu's annual bonus by 62 million shillings. Safaricom Chief Executive Officer Peter Ndegu's annual performance bonus fell by 62.2 million shillings in the year to March 2024, marking the first time his pay has dropped since he was appointed in April 2020. Eurobond yields fall, shilling steady amid downgrade. Interest rates on Kenya's issued Eurobonds have fallen while the exchange rate remains steady despite downgrade. And Cybercorps enters EV market with Kenya Power deal. You can follow the story inside the publication this morning. In Tanzania, how miracles are staged by crafty pastors. They have been on the church since yesterday. This publication, we reveal, they say, how people are hired to be part of quote-unquote miracles and testimonies that are carefully choreographed to present an impression of divine intervention among unsuspecting congregants. You can follow the story on page 4. And we have Timothy, former participant, who said that most of us come from outside the area where the service is held, so it is not easy to identify our traces. The pastor normally discourages critical thinking and urges followers to distance themselves from friends and family who express doubt. And you can follow the story on page 4. Why rents for high-rises have plunged. You can follow this story inside the publication. In Uganda, thieves in my government? Give them no bail. This is what Museveni says. Call to judges. President Museveni's calls to the courts to deny bail to persons accused of corruption has resurrected a polarizing proposal he previously said should apply to rape, terrorism and murder suspects. This is on page 4, and here is what he said. We urge the judiciary to support us by placing corruption, especially embezzlement, in the category of offences that are not considered for bail, which are correct. With a correct, revolutionary and objective approach, we should easily defeat corruption. And MPs who are on remand for corruption, their faces are here. This is happening in Uganda. We have Sisi Namuju, Dionysia, the Lwengo District Woman Representative is in the anti-corruption court on charges related to budget corruption. Mr. Yusuf Mutembuli, the Bunyole East County Legislator, was last month charged in the anti-corruption court over budget corruption. Mr. Paula Kamba, the Busiki County Member of Parliament, was also arraigned in the anti-corruption court on charges related to budget corruption. Michael Mawanda, the Gara East lawmakers, is in the anti-corruption court on charges in connection with cooperative society money. Ignatius Mudimi Omakuyu, the Elgon County representative in Parliament, is also in the court as well on charges in connection with the cooperative society cash. That is Uganda and how they're dealing with corruption. On the side, but Katanga nephews turn in the dock over death of businesswoman. That story is on page 6 and 7 of the publication today. How youths unable to find jobs are roasting their way to riches. It's all about hustling as well. You can follow the story on page 10 of the publication today. In Rwanda, Rwandan consumers show resilience, optimism. Consumers experience variations in household income in quarter 2, 2024. This story is tucked away on page 3 of the publication. And women parliamentary hopefuls, I should say, promise to focus on family law. And you can see some of the 60 women parliamentary hopefuls in Southern Province on the campaign trail in Muhanga District, where they campaigned on Wednesday. They're part of the 199 candidates countrywide who are vying for 24 seats reserved for women in the Chamber of Deputies, with 6 slots set aside for Southern Province. Some of the aspirants who addressed the Electoral College in Muhanga promised to act on the family law if elected to the lower house. And we know this Uganda has been a towering light as far as affirmative action is concerned, and also giving seats to women as far as legislators are concerned. You can follow the story inside the publication today. Our security personnel, medics, patients will cast their ballots, and how a new biannual anti-HIV drive could benefit Rwanda. All that is inside the publication today. Winners and losers in Uganda's new oil deal is a splash. In this week's The East African, UNOC received its first fuel cargo, marking a new era of energy independence, cutting off cartels. But prices are likely to change. And you know why. And this is the spot between Kenya and Uganda. It has been a long, protracted one. We thought they had come to a consensus, but it seems also the pressure that has been bearing on the executive as far as finance bill is concerned also maybe is leaning now towards Uganda as well as far as the import is concerned and the hiked prices. Subdued Ruto crafts painful austerity plan, and after facing off with angry taxpayers for weeks, the Kenyan leader on June the 5th announced measures to reduce public expenditure, including scrapping 47 state agencies, holding off hiring of assistant ministers and reducing government legacies. That story is inside the publication this week of East Africa. In China, shared future highlighted. China, Guinea-Bissau agreed to upgrade relationship to strategic partnership. We have a story inside the publication today. And Beijing, Dhaka elevate ties, vow more beer. That is BRI cooperation. All that inside the China Daily as well. All right, The Flash. This is on the Time magazine. The world's fastest man now is Noah Lyles. He's bringing his speed to the games. Patrick, look at that mean machine. The way it is so muscled out. Yeah. This is.
The way he's bulked up as well, yeah? It looks like that is the way sprinters are built.
Omanyala.
Omanyala.
Yeah, you need to beef up, so that you can actually be the Flash. Quick off the mark.
Some of us are like that, it's only that we are wearing a coat.
Really? You want to show off?
Really? Why are you doubting?
Dr. McPhee, you've ever been like this before? Yeah?
I am afraid I haven't, actually. But when I was in my youth, I used to swim a lot.
I thought you used to be a rugby player.
I played rugby afterwards. But in 1962-63, I used to do a lot of swimming. And the swimming would end, the Kenya Championships would be at the end of March, and then I'd immediately turn to rugby, because the rugby season went from, March and up until August. So,
You said which year?
Well, that was 62, 63, 64, 65.
I wouldn't confirm.
I know you weren't born at that time.
That's a fact.
I know the Professor Iraki just wants to rib you a bit in the morning, right? But thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you coming through as well. I want to also extend a hearty welcome to Professor Gituro Wanaina as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, he was feeling rough for the last 2 weeks.
Yes, I was. And, I've never seen myself in an ambulance,
Were you in an ambulance?
Yes, I just
really?
them moving and carrying people. And I was taking one to the hospital. But interesting experience. There's a lady I didn't like her.
That's not an interesting experience, bro.
Ruth Miano. It was fantastic. You know how somebody takes care of you like your own. Interesting. But
it's good to see.
It's an experience. You take things for granted, but
can we ask the hospital to which you went?
Sorry?
Can we ask the hospital to which you went?
Yeah.
Which hospital?
Is that important?
I don't think so. I don't want to.
There's a hospital in Nairobi called the Nairobi Mortuary.
Let me not mention it. I have my own assessment of the hospital I went to.
Let's not mention
so many of my friends have died there, that I call it the Nairobi Mortuary. So rather than some other name.
At least I got out of it. I did.
Exactly.
It's not that one.
But it's good to be back and see the guys here. And the bar last week says I'm not feeling well. So I was getting a few calls from people. Yeah, after, I think you mentioned in the show last week.
Oh, we were honestly praying for you to get well.
That's kind of
we care for you.
So I got a few calls here. Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm okay.
Fantastic. Welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to see you in the very pink of health. And Patrick as well was away on Festac in Kisumu City.
Yes.
Wanasema Rothopaki.
Rothopaki, yeah. Mungu asifiwe.
Bucket Road.
Yes.
How was it?
Yeah, no, Kisumu was good. I mean, I had to dodge through some of these Gen Z activities on the way there. I drove down on a Tuesday and drove back on a Thursday, and I chose the 2 days when they'd be active. Unfortunately, I was able to go through without any problems. In fact, it was very interesting when I I was heading out towards Siaya, towards my farm.
I thought you'd be actually sleeping at Siaya.
Yeah, I went whatever it is, and I found these toll stations, as they call them in our part of the country. Yeah, there were these stones and on the side of the road, and I thought, now what is going to happen to me? Am I going to be pulled out and and stuff stolen? So what I did, I just put down my window, and I gave the thumbs up sign. And these guys did the same thing. And then they went and they had put sort of twigs across from the stones as well. And they took 3 of them and put them on my bumper and told me, you can go. And after that, then I noticed that most of the motorbikes, bodabodas and everything else had the twigs on them. So this was basically a tick from the Gen Z people that you're a supporter of the protests. Yeah. So I went through a couple more of those, toll stations, and they just waved me through. Yeah,
this was in your 43 million shillings Prado.
No. It's in my Toyota Hilux pickup. It's still a Toyota.
He was a farmer. To them was a farmer.
So I was a farmer going through whatever it is. It was quite interesting that I think what we tend to think of a lot of these people is that they're completely heartless people. And if you show off and begin to sort of, tell them, what do you think you're doing, whatever it is, and so forth, then you head into a conflict.
No, but in all of these protests, there are 2 groups.
Yeah.
There's the Gen Z, and there are the hired goons by people who want to make political capital out of this. We know who they are. Okay, I can't mention their names here because I don't want to sleep in committee tonight. Okay, but we know who they are, and the point is, even the Gen Z, the Gen Z realize this. I was watching a clip the other day. The police were doing absolutely nothing. There were a whole lot of youth in the center of Nairobi throwing stones, breaking things, etc. But those were not Gen Z. True. Those were the hired goons by the politicians. And
absolutely true.
This is, and we see this, and we know this. And, those politicians have got to really be, they've got to be, well, let me not say.
They've got to be smoked out and abducted.
Exactly.
They've got to be given the same thing.
Let's extend
But matters Festac. Festac is going on. It's happening at the end of August.
Oh, it's a whole month.
No, it's a week, yeah?
Oh, okay.
23rd of August, so I think...
it's not started, these are preparations?
These are preparations. We actually went to meet the governor of Kisumu.
Okay. How is he
give
doing?
them an update. My friend Nyang is doing very well.
Nowadays, he doesn't really come to Nairobi. He's decided to be in Kisumu City.
To be in his city, yeah.
Okay.
Look after it, yeah. Yeah. He's in Hale and whatever it is. We had a great time chatting with him for over an hour.
Kisumu is the cleanest city in Kenya.
Absolutely, correct. It took over from Nakuru. They used to say Nakuru was the cleanest one, where, the curbs, there was no soil between the curbstone and the road. That tells you that there's meticulous detail to attention as to how the city is clean. And Kisumu, at least the CBD of Kisumu, let me put it that way,
absolutely,
is exactly what Nakuru used to be in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, so Anyang Nyong'o is doing a good job.
And Festac, what is it all about for those
viewers? Who are they are
because you started advertising this, I think even was it in March?
In March, yeah.
Way back in March.
Yeah, and
where did you
Festac is what was called the Festival of Arts and Culture in Africa. Yeah, it started off in 1967, I think in Senegal, Dakar, and then it came. I think the last one was held in Lagos in 1977. And then it died after that. Lagos sort of held a really large one. And they even have a suburb of Lagos called Festac. Because they built accommodation. They did a whole sort of social transformation projects as part of Festac. And it was huge. Then it went underground for some time. And then 3 years ago, a friend of mine, Yika Bioe, got the franchise of starting Festac again. So they started in Zanzibar, Arusha, and now they're in Kisumu.
Yeah.
So it's an annual festival celebrating arts, culture, sports, and business now. So they've got the four arms, and they bring a whole bunch of people. We're expecting about 8 to 10,000 people to drop into Kisumu in that period of time, plus more for local. These are from outside, plus more internally to sort of go there and celebrate arts and culture.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do they have the hotels to accommodate all those people?
Kisumu they had the Afro-cities the other a couple of years back. So there's enough hotels in and around Kisumu, not
Around
in Kisumu
actually,
itself,
yeah.
in and
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And Kakamega is 45 minutes away.
Correct.
You can go all the way up to, you can go the Ciala Resort, which is on the way towards Maseno, and on the way towards Bondo. There's hotels there as well. So there's a lot of accommodation available in the place, and a lot of people have also turned their facilities into Airbnbs. Yeah, so and these were I think they did a fantastic job during Afro-Cities, where they vetted a whole bunch of residences seem to be fit to be able to accommodate people. So they'll sort of just revive what they've done, recheck them, license them, and then people can use them.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear from Professor X and Iraqi.
It's interesting that we are talking about Kisumu, because I was there 2 weeks ago, not for Festac, but for something very different.
Yeah.
Which you want to disclose?
I was going to Mageta Island.
Oh, Mageta. Yeah.
Yes,
Mageta Island.
I went to Bondo, Usenge Beach, took a boat to Mageta Island, and I went home a very disappointed person, because I was looking for a prison.
A what?
A prison where Mau
Okay.
detainees were put between 1956 and 1957. So my father-in-law was there between 56 and 58, but there's no evidence of that prison. That was very disappointing, that such a good monument of freedom fighters has been raised to the ground. There's no evidence, just a foundation. And I hope that county will one day rebuild that prison as a monument, as an attraction, so that when I go for Festac, I also go to Mageta Island and see where the freedom fighters suffered as they look for freedom.
He's in the board of Festac here.
I'm telling him.
So you should have passed this information to the county governor that, yes, that is on cultural basis.
Yes, but in addition to prison, I went to Sindo. Took a boat from Rwanda-Kotieno Beach.
Londa-Kotieno, yeah.
Then I went to Dusinga Island up to Sindo. One of the biggest attractions around that lake are the sunsets. I have never seen something that mythical. You see, in Mombasa, the sun sets toward the land.
Yeah.
But in Kisumu, it is reflected on the lake. Very scenic ideas.
So any pictures?
I'll share with you. But I believe that if people from the lake region can focus on tourism, they can give Mombasa a run for their money.
But that's why you have this hotel called Sunset.
I don't think...
You're up there and you see the sun setting down. It's amazing.
You haven't seen anything yet
No,
until...
it
has a reflection
It doesn't
on the
work
lake.
anymore because
It's all of a sunset,
the trees
actually.
have grown. No, the hotel is there, but the trees have grown, so you can't see the sunset anymore.
Really?
No, just be at the beach when the sun is setting.
Yeah. Any
It's
beach,
very scenic.
any beach in the Kavirondo Gulf, as we call it. It is absolutely fantastic. In fact, we're looking at a development of the golf course in Kisumu, and it's right at the tip, at the end of the bay, yeah. And when you play golf and you look out exactly at sunset, it's absolutely magnificent. You got the sun setting, and you got this kind of like a ray on the water.
On the water,
yeah, that
yes.
you can see there. And
Amazing.
So this is like sort of a shaft of sunlight. Huh?
No,
Okay.
this orange thing shining back at you, yeah, with the sun at the other end. And I remember in my youthful romantic days taking a picture of my girlfriend in the very early days. I was very young at Toma Bay Pier.
Can you share
At
the
the
photo?
pier, it's one of these that sort of got
Mangled.
The kind of Kodak.
There's a Kodak thing, yeah, which the yellow has gone, yeah. But it's,
You're going to use AI to revive it.
to revive it. Eh? But it was on Homa Bay Pier, and it's exactly the same thing. That the sun was setting, and you take this silhouette, the photograph of the silhouette. Yeah, it's the first time I actually did that with a camera, and it's one of these Polaroid, these Polaroid cameras. Yeah.
had the negatives, you know.
Yeah, you should tag along,
You
Dr.
did
McPhee.
that and then
Next
you sort
time,
of- you
next time you're heading there.
No,
Yeah.
these are Polaroids, which you instant, whatever it is. You know, you took it and then you peeled it out and you waved it in the air for a bit, and then you know the thing came out.
Yeah.
It's that far, that long ago.
I never found that
Fantastic,
one.
fantastic. All right, gentlemen, let's just buckle down to some stories here, and we begin with a very sad story this morning of the High Court Judge David Majanja, who died in Nairobi. High Court Judge David Majanja is dead. We announced this morning, and Chief Justice Martha Koome confirmed the sudden death on Wednesday, the 10th July, saying the judiciary fraternity is heartbroken. We are all heartbroken, Justice Koome said. She said Judge Majanja will be remembered as a towering figure in the development of transformative post-2010 jurisprudence and a crucial pillar in the institutional building of JSS and the judiciary. The judge was recently re-elected as a member of the Judicial Service Commission, representing the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association. He died at the Nairobi Hospital on Wednesday, July the 10th, where he was receiving treatment. Justice Majanja, who is stationed or was stationed at the High Court Civil Division at the Milimani, was elected on May 25th to the JSS for a second term. He was a JSC, I should say, for a second term. He was appointed as a judge of the High Court in 2011 and had previously served in Kisumu, among other court stations. That is what the news that is coming to hand right now. High Court Judge David Majanja is dead. Chief Justice Martha Koome confirmed the sudden death on Wednesday, July the 10th, saying the judiciary fraternity is heartbroken. And may the good Lord rest his soul in eternal peace. We mourn with the judiciary fraternity. Right, Patrick Obath, did you know him maybe in an intimate way, or maybe
No.
as an acquaintance?
Yes. It's more in terms of the judgments that he did, and he did quite a few landmark judgments as a justice. Yeah, that's all I know of his work rather than the person. Yeah, and he was indeed somebody I think very, very well respected in the justice system.
I got sort of to know him during the Waki Commission.
Okay.
He was a part of the team which was looking at after the violence, the ethnic violence, and very sober gentleman. Sad.
Indeed. Indeed.
So rest in peace.
Right, tough questions when, of course, the JSC was interviewing some judges as well, coming from the justice, right? Exxon Iraqi, any memories?
Yes, I didn't meet personally, but I remember one time we had a case where he was supposed to be the presiding judge. And I remember one lawyer telling me, if it is Justice Majanja, iko sawa. And I think that's the much respect people had for him. We also crossed paths because we went to the same school, but he came much later than me. And I'm concerned because the media will tell you where he went for his master's, where he went for his undergraduate, but the media does not tell you where he went to primary school and high school, which is important because charity starts at home. May he rest in peace.
Indeed, indeed. Dr. McPhee?
Number one, I've never appeared in court. Well, I had to appear as an expert witness once, for one of our students that actually forged a certificate as an accountant. But that's my only experience in court. And, generally I don't, whenever money is being stolen, I follow the case. But I've never actually come across his cases. And, to have an honest judge in Kenya, wow, that is a great, great benefit, And unfortunately, we don't always have that. And, to lose a person like that is a real tragedy, because honest judges are so important. They don't exist in the United States of America. They don't exist in many countries. But, we need them. We need them. And it's a great loss when an honest judge will pass away.
Indeed, indeed. A big loss to the judiciary and the justice system in the country as well. Well, let's turn the crack now to matters politics, where ODM leader Raila Odinga appears to have made an about turn on the upcoming national dialogue, saying he will heed calls by members of the party regarding the issue. Speaking on his X platform, Raila, who faced intense criticism from Gen Zs and other party leaders, said he had received the message that party members are not interested in a handshake with the Kenya Kwanza government. The position now adopted by Raila will no doubt complicate matters for President William Ruto, who has convened a national dialogue next week for participants to discuss a wide range of issues brought forth by the Gen Zs following their 3 weeks of protest. And as Grace Nganga now reports, this is the first time Raila and President Ruto have called for a truce.
It now seems that the anti-finance bill 2024 protest by the Gen Z is quietly changing the political landscape in the country. A day after facing the wrath of Kenyans online, who dismissed calls by President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga calls for national dialogue. Many of the Gen Zs dismissed the call by the political class for national dialogue, saying they have no role in their movement. In quick turn of events, ODM leader Raila Odinga now says that he has received messages from Kenyans opposing any plan to have a handshake with President William Ruto. In his X platform, after a meeting seen in pictures with Senators Edwin Sifuna of Nairobi, Eddie Okech of Migori, and nominated Senator Crystal Asige, among others, Raila said he was aware of calls for him not to join the government. He said, and I quote, "I have been told by these leaders that you said you don't want a handshake. The message has been received," end of quote. The big question now is whether he will take part in the national dialogue that will meet from Monday next week. According to the political class, the national dialogue will seek lasting solution to Kenya's pressing issues.
Hajasema anaenda kuongelea Gen Z. Gen Z wamesema wako leaderless, walimwambia yes sio kiongozi wao. Lakini baba, kuna watu wanaongoza. Sio kila mtu wako leaderless, sio kila mtu wako partyless.
If there were consultations about having a national dialogue, my view is those who are hurried and there wasn't a full consultation.
Si makosa yeye kusema watu wakae chini waongee, but we are saying here as leaders who are younger than him that there is no time for dialoguing. We are atukatai, yeye anatafuta amani ya Kenya twende mbele, na sisi tunaitafuta na kusema Ruto must go.
This is not the first time Raila and President Ruto have agreed on a broad-based political arrangement to chart the future from rising political temperatures. The two now find themselves in a process Raila himself is a foreigner to. In 2023, following 75 deaths recorded during the anti-government protests, Odinga and Ruto reached a consensus to allow dialogue following the intervention of former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo that birthed the National Dialogue Committee, NADCO. Fast forward to 2024. The leaderless Gen Z movement are questioning whom Odinga will be representing on the talks set to commence on Monday and end on Saturday.
Agombo, what are we bonging with them? Like, on a serious note, what are we bonging with them? You've been bonging. We could do these dialogues and you know how they end.
Anatulinganisha na mambo ya Ruto kusema mambo ya dialogue. As we don't want any dialogue. With the millennials, we championed for his presidency. It didn't come through. And now it's the Gen Zs. Still tunataka tena kuwa mess tena.
In posters shared on X platform, the Gen Z are accusing Odinga of attempting to hijack a process they initiated for his own selfish political interest, saying they are leaderless and have not called for any dialogue, insisting that the demands can be met without dialogue. However, another statement from leaderless Gen Z and millennials say the youth are no longer content with mere dialogue or promises, but want immediate and concrete actions. Grace Nganga, KTN News, Nairobi.
Meanwhile, President William Ruto is asking politicians to refrain from using shortcuts to ascend to power. The president says Kenya is a democratic country where the people decide the fate of the nation's leadership during elections. Vera Mora has more.
President William Ruto was speaking today when he commissioned the Kimuka substation in Kimuka area, Kajiado County. Speaking at a time when his government is experiencing political unrest from Generation Z's protests countrywide, President Ruto appealed to Kenyans and leaders to shun acts of violence that determine the country's peace and stability. He said, Kenya is a democracy where leadership is changed through the ballot.
Ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba kila kiongozi, kila mmoja wetu, tujue ya kwamba pale 2027 tutafanya mtihani na hawa wananchi. Na kila mtu atakuja na kazi yake amefanya. So, hakuna haja ya kusumbuana hapa katikati. Wacha tungoje hii mtihani, kila mtu afanye hii mtihani tuone nani wa kupita, nani wa kuanguka.
Speaking during the occasion, National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah said there were deliberate plans by some individuals and others from outside the country to sabotage the government in order it fails to implement its agenda.
Political scavengers, Your Excellency, who wanted to divide our country even along class lines. Those political scavengers, Your Excellency, we want to tell them to wait for the next elections in 2027. Let them come and sell their agenda to the people of Kenya. As the people of Kenya, look at your track record on development matters as you promised them when they elected you.
The president also used the occasion to assure junior secondary teachers that despite the withdrawal of the controversial Finance Bill 2024, they will be confirmed under permanent and pensionable terms.
Wale waalimu wa JSS ambao tuliwaajiri miaka miwili iliyopita, nilikuwa nimepanga ya kwamba hawa walimu wote tuwapandishe ngazi waweze kuwa permanent and pensionable. So I want to tell all our JSS teachers, despite the challenges we have in the finance bill, we are going to make sure that we confirm all teachers under JSS before the end of this year so that they can teach knowing that as we agreed, they will serve under permanent and pensionable terms.
Present at the event were Energy Cabinet Secretary David Chirchir, Kajiado Governor Joseph Olelenko.
The substation Kimuka is part of what we call the Nairobi Ring, projects financed by the French Development Agency. So they finance, this is actually, they come in a pair. Four of them. There's Kimuka, there's actually Isinya, there's Atriva and Mala, which we hope to commission. We hope to commission before the end of this calendar year. Earlier, the French Development Agency had financed the project substation at Suswa, and other projects included the lines from Longaland. So they've done quite a lot, plus the Ethiopian line.
The Kimuka substation will serve over 600,000 residents of Karen, Dagoretti, Kikuyu, Kabete, Ngong, Matasia, Magadi, and Gwemwa. Vera Mora, KTN News, Nairobi.
Well, even as the country prepares for National Dialogue Forum set to kick off next week, questions have emerged among a section of Kenyans who say the leaders calling for this particular dialogue are the same politicians who have always pushed for dialogue over the last 20 years. According to younger generation who have been pushing for a change, it is a case of same monkeys in different forests. KTN's political affairs reporter Daniel Karuki has more.
On Tuesday, President William Ruto announced a 6-day of talks starting Monday as he battled to steady the country, threatened by recent anti-government protests pushed by the country's Gen Zs, unhappy with the political class over a variety of issues. During their talks, the leaders, who included Raila Odinga, backed calls for national dialogue.
We will move ahead with the multi-sectoral forum. And we have agreed that a membership of 150 representatives of various stakeholders, 50 of whom shall be young people of Kenya.
The youth particularly, because as I mentioned earlier on, youth actually the majority in our society today. And we want them to be properly heard.
But this has not gone down well with sections of Kenyans who claim the leaders calling for dialogue have been in this kind of politics for a very long time, and maybe is one of the reasons they are opposed to the talks. Pictures shared on social media platforms of the same leaders who have now and then pushed for talks. This is 2007. After post-election violence, majority of the leaders held talks that led to the formation of a grand coalition government. 5 years later, in 2013, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and his then deputy, William Ruto, hosted their 2013 rivals as they claimed elections were over and there was need to bring all Kenyans together. 5 years in 2022, the issue of dialogue and building bridges initiative was also introduced, coupled with a handshake. In 2022, President William Ruto was sworn in as the 5th president, and weeks later, demonstrations were witnessed. Again, the dialogue issue was raised, leading to formation of bipartisan talks.
Of working on the issues that are of priority.
Recently, youth have been involved in protest over good governance, and now the issue of dialogue has come up again. Interestingly, the same leaders are pushing for this dialogue, and maybe this could be the reason why a section of Kenyans are opposed to the dialogue. Just who benefits from these talks?
They've even said any among them without voters' cards, we'll have to get them and change their country. So even if some of us are to go home and we have a country that is governed in accordance with the rule of law,
perhaps it is for this reason section of them are saying it is same monkeys but different forest. Will this new round of national dialogue succeed? Daniel Kariuki, KTN News.
Well, succeeding, that's the question, of course, now that we have Raila, who has turned around on his posture for a dialogue. Let's see what also the government is trying to do, where it has issued a directive to top officials to reduce their advices in line with President William Ruto's undertaking to reduce them by half, as demanded by the taxpayers. The head of the civil service, this is Felix Koskei, has written to cabinet secretaries and other officers to pick only one advisor as per the president's directive. And as Finnick Olwoj now reports, unanswered questions have been or have arisen over the place of the many presidential advisors.
William Samoei Ruto.
Poised as young, energetic, and a man who had a well-laid-out plan to steer the country to new heights of prosperity, President William Ruto ascended to power with high expectations from Kenyans 2 years ago. During this period, the country has faced highs and lows in equal measure, with some of the happenings and decisions made by the head of state put to question by Kenyans. World over, in democratic nations, leaders rely heavily on advisors to make decisions on matters that affect the daily lives of the citizenry. Back at home, this is not different, as the president has a contingent of advisors on matters ranging from laws of the land on governance and policies, economics, security, and foreign affairs, among other key areas. In the recent past, the president has been highly criticized by Kenyans on decisions his government made that were outrightly unlawful or draconian and oppressive. A case in point being the infamous Finance Bill 2024 that proposed taxes that angered Kenyans who took to the streets for 2 weeks straight, majority being the youth. The Finance Bill 2024 sought to impose a 20% excise duty on mobile money transaction, 16% VAT on bread, and 2.5% motor vehicle tax, among other contentious taxes, a move that Kenyans felt the president was out of touch with the economic hardships Kenyans faced. A classic example that the president was ill-advised or advised but chose to ignore.
I know President William Ruto. Had he known 2 months ago that the people of Kenya did not want anything to do with the Finance Bill 2024, he would not have asked his parliamentary party to push it through.
Dr. David Ndii, who chairs President Ruto's Council of Economic Advisors, has continuously been slammed by Kenyans on economic decisions made by the government. The Attorney General Justin Muturi has also been accused of not offering proper legal advice to the president. One of the recent questionable decisions by the president was the deployment of Kenya Defence Forces KDF to suppress protesters in CBD Nairobi and the formation of the Forensic Audit of Public Debt Task Force. Nominees to the task force, who included the Law Society of Kenya President Faith Odhiambo, turned down the appointment, with the Law Society of Kenya issuing a statement terming the formation of the task force as unconstitutional and further stating that the audit responsibilities lie in the mandate of the Office of the Auditor General. In his defense, the Attorney General Justin Muturi, speaking to KTN News, said he offers legal advice to the president only when sought by the president, arguing that most of the recent decisions that conflicted with the constitution did not have his input. In the conversation, the Attorney General disagreed with the deployment of military to engage non-protesting civilians in Nairobi and the formation of the Forensic Audit of the Public Debt Task Force. And as Kenyans continue to question the efficiency and competency of the president's advisors, the head of public service, Felix Kosgei, has released a directive reducing the number of advisors in government by 50% with immediate effect. In a statement, and I quote, "It is notified that the president directed that the number of advisors in government be reduced by 50% with immediate effect. By dint of the presidential action, the number of advisors assigned to each cabinet secretary has been revised from 2 to 1. Additionally, the number of personal staff attached to you will remain as set out in Public Service Commission guidelines, being 2. Phoenix Oluoch, KTN News.
And the influence of Gen Zs continues to be felt across the globe, with some of them preparing to take up the leadership roles, while others have already been elected. The Gen Z protests in Kenya received limelight internationally, with Jamaican dancehall star, that is Conscience, waving the Kenyan flag at his concert last Saturday. In the UK, 10 Gen Zs were elected as members of parliament. Clement Masomo has more.
Kenyan protests made international headlines when Gen Z and millennial demonstrators took to the street to oppose the Finance Bill 2024, which had some punitive tax proposals. The demonstrators took to the streets in major towns and cities demanding for the withdrawal of the bill. After a series of protests for days, the president heeded to their call and withdrew the bill, which the proponents had argued was to raise funds for the 2024-2025 budget. Unlike the previous protests, this was different from its planning, coordination, and the way protesters carried themselves. It was led by the young generation who used the internet and social media platforms to plan and strategize as well as assess the outcome. What caught the eyes of many, however, was how Kenyan youth received international recognition and influenced other youth across the continent and even the world at large. The Kenyan global wave seems to have caught on pretty fast as the whole world continues to benchmark with the country's anti-government protesters, with many global stars throwing their weight behind the Kenyan youth. Days after the Kenyan protests, the youth in Nigeria are also planning to stage demos in August to demand better governance from the ruling administration. Posters making rounds online indicate the demos will go from August 1st to 10th. In February this year, young people in Senegal, where more than 60% of the population is under 25 years, led nationwide anti-government demos to protest against a decision to delay the highly anticipated presidential elections from February to December. Celebrities from Tanzania, Nigeria, Uganda, and other parts of the world have shown open support, many encouraging Kenyans to keep up the fight for their rights. They include Nigeria's Joboy, Jamaica's Queen Africa, and Tanzania's Christina Shusho, who used the Kenyan flag as her display photo. On Saturday, July 6th, Jamaican dancehall star Conscience waved the Kenyan flag at the Summer Jam Festival in Germany. And in the UK, 10 members of the Generation Z have been elected to serve in the UK Parliament. Clement Masombo, KTN News, Nyeri County.
All right, time we take a short break, and as we do that, also, we come out also with the editorial cartoons. Mambo ni mengi, right? We cancel the mambo ni matatu there. Mambo ni mengi, as far as the current state of play is concerned. IBC now, you can see the cabinet has broken there. They are sent to the bill. Now it's an act, and beyond there or behind, you can see coffins and also epitaphs as well, and a bludgeon there on the brutality of the police. Mambo ni mengi, si matatu anymore as far as Ozone is concerned. And the dogs are barking. The Gen Zs, woo, woo. And also the recall clause, woo, woo. It's a nightmare for the MPs who are sleeping right now, or maybe they're not because of what is haunting them as well. And government of national unity, right? Political temperatures, now they're hot. The one who has been zipped, he unzipped himself, and now he's zipped again. As far as the dialogue is concerned, the U-turn of Raila Odinga, this is what Stano has drawn for us as well. And Kenya Paralympics entourage, there will be no joy riders. We've seen joy riders, of course, on this particular, and Kenyans are waiting to see how the list will be. And can you imagine the joy riders, or maybe also the athletes with his uniform? Yeah, wasn't me. Designer brand Babu distances himself from Kenyan Olympic kits. Gituro, what do you think about this? Looks like it's a choir outfit or a traditional outfit. It was meant for the athletes as they're going for the Olympics. Well, we'll take a short break. We'll circle back with more. Don't go away. You're watching Sokoni here on Morning Prime.